Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We want to note that this meeting is being broadcast on the Novato Unified School District's YouTube channel at the direction of the board. The broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. If you'd like to make public comment on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda, please see staff at the side table for a comment card. The board met in closed session. Trustee Novato will report out.
Good evening. The board met in closed session on the following items. Confidential student matters. Board heard and discussed matter related to student 2024-25-1001 and gave direction. Board heard and discussed matter related to student number 2024-25-1002 and gave direction. Board heard and discussed matter related to student number 2024-25-1003 and gave direction. Board heard and discussed matter related to student number 2024-25-1004 and gave direction. Personnel matters, public employee discipline dismissal release, information only. Conference with labor negotiators, Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director of Human Resources and Employee Organization, Novato Federation of Teachers, NFT, gave direction. Conference with labor negotiators, Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director of Human Resources and Employee Organization, California School Employee Association, CSEA, no updates. Personnel matters, employee appointment, Director of Special Education, information only.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve this evening's agenda. Trustee Mack, thank you. And a second by Trustee Pickus, thank you. All in favor? 7, unopposed. And now the consent agenda. I think we have 2 items that are going to be pulled. The first is item XG that will be brought to us at a later date, so that will not be included in what we approve today for the consent. And then we have item P is going to be approved separately. Are there any other items that we'd like to pull?
I looked at the, pardon me, I thought I had the number, I thought it was Emmett's, the approval of acceptance of a final project, and I'm missing the number. I apologize.
It's okay, it's P. That was the one I just referenced, that we're gonna approve that separately,
okay,
and we
yes.
have
Yep, that's perfect.
our
Thank you very
consultant
much.
here to speak on that in just a moment.
Thank you very much.
Any other items that we'd like to pull? Okay, I'd like to ask for approval of the consent agenda with the 2 exceptions that were called out.
I will move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Pickus. Second. Trustee Millerick, thank you. All in favor? 7 unopposed, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna directly go to item P so that our consultant can come and tell us about that, and we can decide if we're going to approve it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so item P is the notice of completion for the Rancho and Hill Paint Project. We're filing this notice at this point to start the 30-day period for contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers to file any liens. There is still some information that we need from the contractor for their warranty, and we are going to withhold money at 150% per the public contract code until we get those items.
May I?
And I know that one of the just real quick, one of the main questions was if this is the completion of the project, have we gotten all the things that our staff needs at the end of that project, be it warranty information, user guides, all of that sort of paperwork. And this process, the notice of completion process, sometimes doesn't line up with that piece. What we are discussing is what is our process going to look like after that, so that we actually have a separate process, because this notice of completion is time sensitive and we may not have all that information at the time of the notice of completion. However, it is absolutely important to get all of that information, and by saying this project is done, all of those things should be in hand. So we are saying that we do agree that we need to have a separate process to say this project is complete and we have XYZ in hand, those ending closing documents.
Thank you. Thank you for pulling the item and allowing for the conversation. Clearly, if we don't file a notice of completion, payments to contractors who have completed substantial work and paid their people gets held up. So we don't want to hold up notice of completion if we in fact have completed the work, but we want everybody to do their job. And the reason I asked for this to be discussed isn't because the contractor, we write a contract, the contract at the end says, when you finish the project, you owe the district these 10 documents or some deliverable that's written at the end. My concern isn't that the contractor never gave it to us. My concern, as an example, in the IT projects, that information, their testing results, never was forwarded to the IT department. And everybody in the bond program has left the district, and there's no way to find out if we ever got that information, and it represents quality testing of over 1,000 individual circuits. So I've asked for this question before, and we haven't had this conversation where we start getting to a formal process where that information is not only delivered to the contractor, to our bond committee, but is also delivered to our bond team, but is also handed to the district in a usable form, because if it's an air conditioner, somebody in the maintenance department is going to need the manual to run the air conditioner or how to set it up. Or if it's a Pelican controller, they're going to need to know how to set it up. And there's this gap that's happening, and I'm trying to find out how to fill the gap. And so here we are in a public meeting, which is maybe not the best kind of conversation to have this, but what I'm looking for is some assurance that we're going to address that problem of making sure those documents that were in the contract that we paid for get put in the hands of the executing team at the district, so we get value for that money we spent. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't intend to hold up the contractor's pay, but this is the time when it comes to me, and I'm supposed to make a judgment about should we approve this or not. And I've asked the question before, and I'm asking it again now. How do we know that we're getting that work done?
I think that that's the exception to the rule. I think overwhelmingly we end up with all the end user agreements and all the end user files and everything that we need. I can't speak to that one specifically because actually it hasn't been brought to my desk.
I just heard it as hearsay, so.
But nonetheless, I think that we have our weekly core meetings and we see the end deliverables about that, and we're tracking all that. I think what needs to be done, it sounds like, is that last piece of the puzzle, the completion piece, needs to be shared with a larger group. That includes the board and the end users of that.
If you would commit to a process to get that put before the staff and deal with this at a staff level, I'd be more than happy to move this item, not hold up the contractor. But I've asked before and I haven't gotten an answer before, so.
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of it is that right now, the end users are part of the process of the sign-off of completion. I think the only part that's missing here is maybe some of the documentation work and ensuring that piece also makes it, which we can make that part of the process going forward. It's like I said, this is, I think, the one that you're referring to is more of an exception and not the rule. Most often we get everything that we need, and I can go back and verify where this is because those contractors, right, they still exist. We can go back and get that if we were missing anything.
With that assurance, I will move item P for approval tonight so we can pay the contractors.
Thank you.
Do we have a second for that before more conversation? Okay, Trustee Gasson, thank you. And would you like to comment? Uh-oh.
I think the distinction I'm getting from you is this is just a notice that it's complete. We still haven't done the final payment.
Yeah, there's
so I think that's the piece. They don't, that's missing. This is just saying the project has been completed as far, but we haven't completed all the payments or whatever is due. So that's, to me, the distinction here between what we're saying, and we're still haven't settled up on the payment, and which time we can do whatever as part of the process.
There could also be multiple contracts on one project. This is closing of one piece of it, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that the project itself is complete. This is a notice of completion on one piece.
Okay, so let's get a process together and you can let us know what that's gonna be. Awesome, okay. All in favor of moving this item forward? 7, none opposed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
Thank you for
conversation.
coming and talking about this.
Yep.
And let's make sure we get this right now.
Mhm.
Okay, announcements. Trustee Miller, would you like to start?
I had the opportunity to meet with the principals at the beginning of the new year. It was exciting to see the enthusiasm. I missed the drum playing. I had some other responsibilities, but this is an exciting school year. I'm really, really, really excited. And it was held on the Indian Valley campus. And so once again, we're building closer ties to K-14 education as opposed to K-12 education or pre-K 14. So I think that's a good sign for Novato and Novato families. I think it just makes us all stronger. So thank you for the invitation.
I would say the same. A number of us were there, and the drum circle was fabulous. And just the enthusiasm and the excitement from the leaders in this district was palpable. And it was just such a great way to start the year. So thanks as well for being included, and also just a welcome back for everyone. And I know that we feel like we've all been on summer break, but I want to just shout out the many of our staff members who were working hard all summer long. And the many teachers who were on vacation, but were not really on vacation, and we're still lesson planning and doing all the things that they do to be ready for our kids. So welcome back.
No announcements?
Pretty much similar to what was just said, but I'd also add that I'm running into staff at Target and at Peony and doing all these things in prep of making sure schools look beautiful for the kids and feel welcoming, and I much appreciate that, and know the kids are excited, and I'm still not ready for summer to be over, so but here we are.
Whoops. Welcome back. Summer is not over. I'm going to stick with that. Anyway, also attended the DLT kickoff on Friday. That was fun. Couldn't stay for the whole thing, but really enjoyed the group. Seeing all the elementary teachers dressed the same was kind of fun. Also attended remotely, as always, the Marin County School Board's Executive Committee meeting this morning, and had lots of discussion about how to get the board members across all the districts in the county in alignment with regard to cell phone use policies, and how perhaps we can bring all the board members up to speed on the implications, how things work, what doesn't work, so that we're not all trying to figure this out individually. Similarly, with regard to e-bikes and the also the concept of trying not to throw out the good e-bikes with the bad e-bikes, and make sure that we have a really strong policy that works together with the local law enforcement to keep stupid things from happening on e-bikes. Unfortunately, I've been exposed to some of it, and we do have an issue there. But thank you.
No report.
I had the pleasure of meeting with, through Superintendent Smith's organization, a group of parent leaders throughout our district whom came together to talk about all of the different safety aspects of school. A couple subcommittees are being formed, and I think there's some really important work that's happening there, so that was great to be a part of. And I will say, also attending the district leadership team kickoff day, we have a wonderful group of administrators that are so excited to do amazing things with and for students and teachers, and it's going to be a fantastic year.
No pressure. You heard it here. Fantastic year coming our way. We have been spending many days besides the retreat on leadership trainings. We had a fabulous one today. And a lot of our staff, like educators through MCOE, AVID trainings, online courses, So gearing up as well. We have been busy here at the district office enrolling quite a few families arriving, and so enrollment looks steady and strong again, so we're pleased with that. And we're just doing a lot of planning and prepping. We have opening day on August 19th, for, getting ready for August 22nd, which is our first day of school. Our 3 words for this year, as they relate to our big words, engage, inspire, empower, relationships, belonging, and growth. We want to also introduce 2 new of our fantastic admin team. We'd like to invite up Dawn Moeni. She is our new Director of Special Education. Come on up, you can stand right here. It's a little awkward, but you'll be fine. So Dawn is joining us from Sonoma Valley Unified School District, also Katati Werner Park, where she was. She worked for nearly 24 years. She has been both an elementary principal and a high school principal. She was named the California League of High Schools Educator of the Year in 2004 and was principal of Tech High when it won the National Blue Ribbon Award. Dawn is known for her experience in producing and supporting change efforts that improve outcomes for students. Her ability to listen to educational partners, provide strong professional development programs, and align MTSS practices will be an asset to all of our students, staff, and parents. So, welcome. Okay. All right. All right, we're not going to leave Jahan up here all by himself. So, Dawn, if you don't mind coming back up, and Jahan, if you want to come up, please. All right. We are pleased to introduce you to Jahan Miles. He is our new assistant principal at Novato High School. He joins us from Stockton Unified School District, where he has been for the past 8 years. He has been serving as an elementary school teacher, but he fell in love with his field work. He fell in love with high school. He's also been coaching high school students for many years. He has been instrumental in implementing data-driven assessments, fostering inclusive classroom environments, and leading various school initiatives. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to his new role. He is known for his ability to build strong relationships within the school community. He believes that successful education is rooted in those strong partnerships between teachers, students, and parents. Welcome. Yay!
Okay. We now move on to non-agenda public comment. These are items that are not currently on agenda. The board is not at liberty to address these comments, but we are very welcome to have them. Our first speaker, all of our speakers will have 3 minutes, there's a timer over there, will be Russell Krug. And our next speaker after that will be Larry Wright. Please use the microphone in the center of the room. And I am a tennis player. I did hear the call. I heard you.
We saw your shirt. You might remember me from the last meeting.
Would you mind getting to the microphone so that that can be heard on our recording?
Okay, you might remember me from the last meeting. My name is Russell Krug. I'm a resident of Novato for 40 years, and I'm also a board member of the Novato Tennis Club, which celebrated its 60-year anniversary last year. And we do have an issue with high school tennis courts. Each high school has more tennis courts. Each of the 2 high schools by themselves has more tennis courts than the entire city of Novato. And during my 40 years, they've always been open to the public until COVID. Now, we're very grateful that in the last 2.5 years, Novato Tennis Club has regained access to the San Marin High School tennis courts for 2 hours on Saturday mornings. And we've had that for a very, very long time. And last time we brought up this issue that we'd like to have the courts reopened. And we're very happy that the very next day, we got an email saying that Joshua Braff agreed that the court should be open to the community. And so we're very, very happy about that, and we want to encourage to make that happen. Now, for the first 36 of my 40 years here, there were no locks on the tennis courts. I guess there was very little threat of vandalism. And there certainly are bigger targets for vandalism than tennis courts. You know, you have buildings with windows and walls and things that could be graffitied. So while the school district is looking at some sort of enhanced enhanced security for access to these courts, could they go back to the old system of leaving the courts open? And if there are times when there's potential threat of vandalism, like we've had post-COVID, go back to what's worked very well for the last 40 years, for the last 4 years, just, use a padlock. And that kept everybody off the courts for the last 4 years, with the exception of us, where the school district was kind enough to give us a separate padlock for us to use during those 2 hours on Saturday mornings. That's our request, and we hope that that can happen. And we have other speakers also that are basically giving the same message. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Larry Wright, and after that will be Luke, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it wrong. Bear. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. And I was here about 3 years ago. I don't know if any of you were here then, and I didn't need 3 minutes, I needed 3 seconds, and I just said, COVID's over, would you please unlock the tennis courts? I've lived in Novato for 53 years. 50 of those years as tennis courts were unlocked and available to the community. COVID came, COVID left, they kept them locked. We ended up with a meeting. It was Lois Standring. I don't know if you remember her, but she's gone now. She facilitated a meeting that I went to with the president of the tennis club. It was like a David and Goliath meeting. We went in and there were 10 representatives from the school district, all with reasons why they needed to keep the tennis courts locked because of vandalism, liability, wear and tear on the courts. It was just really a lot of. And anyway, here I am 3 years later, and apparently there was I found out there was some sort of reciprocal agreement that the school board had with the city of Novato. I don't know if it's expired or whatever, but I would urge you to look into that again. I think it was because the city doesn't have a lot of tennis courts. They have 4 courts at Pioneer Park. And the way it is now, I don't know if any of you are tennis players. I know we can't have a dialogue, but if you're a tennis player, you know what I mean. People are stacked up like cordwood at Pioneer Park, and they have no place to play. Meanwhile, 10 courts are locked, 5 at Novato High School and 5 at San Marin. So I would just urge you to unlock the tennis courts to the community. It's just the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Luke, and then will be Soma.
This is my son, Riley Bear. I'm going to be speaking on his behalf today. So my family and I live here in Novato for the last 6 years. I have 3 children, all 2 of them are at Rancho. Tessa, who's 10, Eva, who is 8, and Riley, who just graduated from Montessori, who's 4. We recently learned that Riley would be overflowed to another school outside of his neighborhood school, and we just think it's unconscionable to split up a family, and it's heartbreaking to think about what it would do to Riley. We've sent you guys all emails from his care provider team outlining his special needs, and he's a very sensitive young man who has a support team that he really needs to be in touch with, and that support is his community and his family. We took him to Montessori specifically because it was right next to Rancho. He walked to school every morning with his sisters. He only really knows like our street and Royal Vici and Rancho and Montessori, and that's his whole world. And we can't imagine what it would be like to split him up from that and just like ship him to another place where he has no idea and doesn't belong. The other thing is the logistics on our family. Like, I can't imagine being able to meet all the bell schedules, like getting two kids to separate places. I'm predominantly the one that gets our children to school and back, 'cause my wife is a night shift nurse in the city, and she's rarely even home in the mornings. So I don't see logistically how it's going to be possible. I think really in the end, I am looking for your support and to use your tools and interpret the language of the ed code to support what's best for Riley, and the documentation that we provided in the email. I have hard copies I'm going to give you today as well. I think supports keeping him at Rancho, and that's really what we're seeking from you all today. I think if relationships and belonging and growth are important to you, that this issue strikes at those matters.
Thank you. Next, we have Soma and then Nick Williams. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Soma Srinivasan. I am here to talk a little bit about the tennis courts, school tennis courts not being available for the public. I would urge and encourage you to consider opening them for public use again and not get them locked up. And as the previous, my club colleagues stated earlier, that there is almost always seems to be a rush at the Pioneer Park, and I don't know a lot of stats, so I'm just going to speak like a simple person. So I believe that the public, the school courts also is public property, and they should be accessible to the public. And we do have beautiful courts in the schools, and I really cannot comprehend why they need to be locked up. So I would really urge you to please reconsider and ensure that they're open. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last public comment for this evening, Nick Williams.
Hello. Still summer. Woo. Good to see you guys. As we are jumping back into another school year, I just wanted to come and give you a real quick state of STEM Marin, because I feel like sometimes you don't get it. So things have been going really, really well. We have a tremendous community interest, and last year we brought in 210 incoming ninth graders, which makes up 60% to two-thirds of our incoming group. Same amount is coming again this year, 200 to 210. So that means that, well, let's see, we have 11 sections of incoming ninth graders, and 7 of those are either in art and science or engineering or biotech. So we're currently running 4 engineering, 2 biotech, and 1 art and science, which is a kind of fun, exciting thing. Our students are doing really well. They're learning a ton, which is the most important thing. They're excited to be coming to school, and I feel like it's really leading to raising the bar of doing the hard things at school, because all these students are signing up for 2 science classes every year where they don't need to in order to graduate. So that's doing a great thing in terms of kind of like setting a standard for all of our students of doing our best work, trying the hard stuff. We've now been going for about 12 years, and we've got alumni who are now working in the industry, and it's been really cool getting some of them back into the classroom. I would say kids who have graduated, but now they're adults who have graduated and can come back and judge student work as professional engineers and biologists, and so it's great that we're kind of like expanding that way. Our largest challenge continues to be staffing. We lost 3 science teachers this year. 2 went down to South Marin, where they can make $20,000 more, and 1 went north to Sonoma because she can buy a house for $200,000 less. We've been able to fill 2 of those positions, one by stealing a teacher from Sinaloa. I'm really sorry about that. That was super uncool. And that actually doesn't solve a problem for the district. That's just moving things around. But they got their position filled, so good job by you. So the tricky thing, the three people that we lost were both young, coming into their 30s, super energetic, had been trained up for 6 years. I'm hopeful about the folks that we're bringing in. I'm less hopeful about the position that we still have open, because it's August, and I'd really like to have that full. So that's kind of where things are really succeeding. Our project-based learning model has been tremendous in terms of student results, student engagement, relationships, but it does take really high-quality educators to maintain that, and it's a lot to try to keep finding those folks over the summer and training them to be who we want them to be. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We are on to item 11A, staff report. This will be presented by Joshua Braff and Lori Ranieri. This is presentation of the results of the issuance of the sale of the NUSD 2024 general obligation refunding bonds.
See, I like to make incredibly long titles so that you have to read them, and then I get to just say, we're doing a presentation today. This is a presentation, yes, on the most recent bond sale that happened in June. And so now GFS JPA is here to present, namely Keith, who presented when the sale was going to go live. So yeah, thank you. Take it away.
I want to thank you again for being a member of GFS JPA. One of our goals is that our members are committed to be guided by finance best practices, ethics, and transparency. And our experience with Novato is your exhibit A, because not only do we have a great bond sale, which Keith is going to share with you, but the cooperation and support of the district staff, just the warm welcome when we walk in the building. You know, the positivity and the can-do attitude makes everything easier. Even when you have a naughty problem, naughty, K-N-O-T-T-Y, the can-do attitude, let's get it done, let's figure it out, let's work together. To me, it's just part of this, and we have 55 members, and we're selecting for that, right? They're self-selecting and we're selecting, and we're just thrilled to be part of your team. Now, we try to follow when we set a practice that seems to work, and last time we were here worked really well to let Keith drive, because he drives faster than me, so he's going to take us through these slides, but we have some wonderful news for the community.
Yep. It is really excellent news that we have to share with you tonight. So just by way of review, we were here a few months ago talking about the opportunity to refinance our Measure A bonds to help save our taxpayers some money. As was mentioned, that was completed in June, and so now we just have a brief update for you on how the results turned out. So just by way of process, we did want to share we incorporated a number of best practices as recommended by GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. A lot of these involve sort of competition and managing costs and doing everything we can to try to save the most amount of money as possible. The district did have its credit rating reviewed by one of the main agencies called Moody's Investors Service, and the rating was AA1. And if you look at the table here, you can see that's near the very top of the list. And so what I want to highlight for you, that's a very excellent credit rating for a school district. And the reasons cited included resident income and property values, the enrollment recovery that's occurred post-pandemic, as well as healthy district finances. So congratulations on this excellent credit rating. In terms of process, we went out to bid on June 6th to invite banks and lenders to give us proposals for this refinancing. Our CFO attended with us on Zoom, and we used sort of an internet platform to both get bids as well as notify bidders and really trying to encourage as much competition as possible. And you can see how many bids we got. We got 15 bids from around the United States. It was a really fantastic number. A lot of these names you probably know, some of them you may not know. We got banks both large and small, and really from sort of around the United States, so really Good result. We also had several bidders that you may recall. We went out for Measure G bonds in 2022, and we got a number of banks that we didn't see in Measure G. So that was a nice signal that we're getting some banks who weren't involved previously, and that was a good sign in the competition. One interesting result, none of these are West Coast banks or even more locally here in California. So again, sort of a sign that we were able to sort of stretch far and wide to receive bids. Now, 15 bids is excellent. So we've been involved in over 400 bid processes back to 2003. And sort of what I highlight for you is 15 bids was in sort of the top 1% of bids that we received. So again, just sort of sharing sort of how unusual this is in terms of how good the result turned out. Why did we get so many bids? We think it was because the size of bonds appealed to sort of a range of banks, small and large. We did schedule them ahead of others coming to market. We'll share a little more about that. And then again, that credit rating was a really excellent factor for banks to feel comfortable giving us bids. And then in terms of the results, you can see all the different banks that bid along the tops, the interest rates. The winning bidder was from Morgan Stanley, and the winning bid was 2.84%. And you can see the bids went all the way up to 3.09%, about $155,000 more expensive. So again, that was sort of a nice sign of the competitiveness helped sort of lower our expense here. And then it was a very busy week in the market. You can see all the, on this list here, all the other California tax-exempt government agencies that were issuing bonds. Interestingly, there were 2 school districts from California who were selling GO bonds negotiated the same week. Those are in purple. 2 additionally were selling competitively the same day. So having other California school districts out in the market the very same week kind of gave you some interesting comparison points. And just to sort of share with you some insight into those comparisons, there was so we're in green here. We had $22 million with a 5-year term. Virginis was similar size, similar term, also received 15 bids. Sac City Unified was much larger, much longer, received 5 bids. And then there's a couple school districts, Hope Elementary and Los Gatos Saratoga High School District, that both went with a negotiated process where they selected a bank up front and then negotiated with that firm as opposed to asking for bids. Interestingly, Los Gatos had a higher credit rating than us. They had a AAA credit rating. So we did a little comparison to see, how do we stack up compared to these other school districts. And the way that we did that was looking at our interest rates and their interest rates as compared to a benchmark interest rate index. And we looked at what the difference was between what the interest rates that were received versus this benchmark. And just a quick reminder, when it comes to interest rates, lower is better. A lot of areas in life, we want to aim high. With interest rates, we want to go low. So lower is better. And here's the results. We were the lowest of the group. So that was really excellent. You can see on the left-hand side, we're at the bottom of this list if you look at the entire term of bonds. And then even if you look at just the 5 years where we were issuing our debt and look at just those 5 years, we still remain the lowest. And so that was great. You can see Las Virgenes was close second place to us. They also went out competitive. But interestingly, Los Gatos, who had a better credit rating than us, we might think they'd get a lower interest rate, but because they went negotiated, we think that was the reason that they got a higher interest rate, and the other districts got higher interest rates as well. So I think this sort of validates our results. This is just sort of graphically, we're in green here. You can see that if you look at the interest rates along this chart here, we tend to be the lowest, and the other school districts are higher than us. And then, so what does that mean for us? So our savings ended up being $1.2 million, which is excellent. We only have 5 years left to go. And then these bonds will be paid off. And then we look at a metric as recommended by best practices, which is net present value savings. And we had suggested we establish a minimum floor of 3% of the bonds being refinanced based on this best practices. We were estimating 4.3% when we were here a few months ago, and where we landed was 5.1%. So well above the metric. I think it's just a sign that it was a really good time for us to refinance and to move forward with this. And then for property taxes. So our taxpayers pay property taxes to help repay our Measure A bonds. And you can see for the 5 years remaining, it's estimated to be a reduction of about 4% or so per year. So on these property taxes currently $55, it'll get knocked down a few dollars as a result of this refinancing. And this is on a per $100,000 of assessed value. So you have to do the multiplication. But anyway, really nice way to sort of shave off some of the taxes that our property taxpayers have to pay. So congratulations. We think this is a fantastic result. We hope you feel the same. In terms of where we are, funds are currently held in escrow for the upcoming refinancing. August 23rd, investors in the bond market will get notified of this refinancing, and it'll actually take place on September 23rd. And then just sort of looking ahead into the future, we have some Measure G bonds that are looking like a good opportunity for refinancing in fiscal year 26, 27. So that's sort of a little preview of what might be ahead in store for us. So thank you again, and happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
I think this is really interesting. I'm fascinated, but I think I missed one point. The bonds, as they're refinanced, are going to be paid off now over 5 years.
Correct.
What I missed was, right now, before we refinance, were they going to be paid off in 2 years?
Oh.
And then we extended the term and got a better rate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we kept it exactly the same term.
Oh, okay.
So it was 5 years to go. It still is 5 years to go. But through the refinancing, we were able to reduce the payments over that remaining 5-year period.
Okay, so the term stayed the same, that's,
Yes.
okay. So we're kind of apples for apples, it's just,
Yes, exactly.
the market got better and our credit rating got better and we're benefiting 1.2 million?
Yes,
Or
that's
the
correct.
taxpayers in Nevada were benefiting 1.2 million?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the amount of savings that we were able to achieve, 1.2 million.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Very
You guys,
good.
your expertise is always so welcome and appreciated.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
May I make a quick
Yes.
comment? Somebody asked me the other day, what did Novato do right? How did you get from at one point having buildings falling down to where you are now? And Lori and your team, I would like to point out that one of the things we did right is this process. We always protect the local taxpayer. We do the best we can to deliver education, which is sort of the business we're in, and with the highest quality instructors we can find at a proper pay rate. But managing the fiscal side of this business, it's $120 million a year business, plus another $200 million in construction bonds. Without this process, where we're constantly looking for a way to save our local taxpayer cost and deliver the same academic result, is one of the amazing things about this place. And I would like to thank both of you. And Lori, this is probably the 10th time we've been in the room together, so thank you. And your associate standing next to you.
Yeah, Josh is very easy to get along. But so is Millie.
Yeah, thank you. So it just needs to be mentioned how important this is to the work we do here.
I'll be quick. I should have spoke earlier, but I didn't. I would just like to ask if we could, Leslie, if we could make sure we publicize this everywhere, but keep on publicizing it, because people like my dad, who are retirees, lived here for 60 years, are just amazed that we saved this much money. So let's keep that going.
Well, we'll have another opportunity, and we work very closely, make sure Leslie has the information, and, and I just love working with her. She's got a great ability to take the kind of things that we're saying and turn it into something meaningful to the average person. But we should probably get something out before the tax bills go out, and remind people that their tax bills are lower as a result of this effort.
Great, thank you so much. I see her taking notes. Okay, we are now on to item 12A, discussion action. This is the approval of the 24 through 2030 purchase and adoption of curriculum for Hamilton K-8 School, San Jose Middle School, and Sinaloa School. Presenter, Dr. Julie Sinyard.
Okay. Good night. Good night. Happy first board meeting. Welcome back, everybody. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Smith. Tonight, Lindsay Broden and I are very excited to bring forth a middle school science curriculum, Discovery Education, for your consideration for adoption. I'd like to thank all of the middle school science teachers from Hamilton Elementary, San Jose Middle School, and Sinaloa Middle School for engaging in an extremely collaborative process this year to bring this curriculum forward. I would also like to thank Karen Fremantle for seeing this process to fruition, and to Lindsay Broden for her efforts to date. I'm thrilled to introduce some of our amazing science teachers who explain the process and the rationale for selecting the Discovery Education curriculum. And I'm pleased to introduce Mallory Barrett, Erica De La Torre, Gabby Mastro, Chase McCoy, and Whitney McHarris. Thank you. All right, do you guys know how to click this through? Okay, perfect.
Hello, I am Chase McCoy from Hamilton. And before we jump into the fantastic amazingness of this curriculum, I want to just take a step back and understand why this curriculum does align with the board priorities, specifically two of the most important ones, student success and staff support. When it comes to student success, the potential for success can be dramatically impacted by the purchase of this curriculum, specifically as a means of implementation of our district goal of proficiency-based education across the district. Now, the unfortunate reality is that 30% met or exceeded this last year. These are our CAST scores that we're looking at. And we believe that this is a representation of the past 11 years without a guaranteed viable curriculum. Those 11 years have been a process of teachers at individual schools having to not only interpret the standards themselves, but find resources, create labs, and curate ways to teach this material. Inevitably, that creates strengths and weaknesses that align with each of our individual expertises within the scientific fields. The unfortunate reality is 30% is not where we want it to be. We want it to be higher. How can we do that? Curriculum. Separately, staff support, right? Our jobs, specifically as science teachers, have been a little bit additionally difficult in the district's pursuit of creating a proficiency-based education because we don't have this curriculum. Wow. Some of our educators here have been doing this for 11 years. Teachers like myself, I'm finishing my second year just now, entering my third. My first 2 years were a struggle to find curriculum, create curriculum, find resources. Now, thank you so much for helping and providing resources whenever I asked. And even so, it's been really tough and resulted in a lot of sleepless nights. Now, my questionable sleeping habits aside, the reality is that science teachers in NUSD, we need support. And the best way to facilitate that support is with this Discovery curriculum, which my friend is about to talk to you about.
Okay. From our experience without a curriculum, these criteria have stood out as areas that we as staff and our students need to be successful. So the Next Generation Science Standards were adopted 11 years ago. And they completely changed the way the standards, how we, I'm trying to scroll. They completely changed how we as teachers teach the subject matter because they integrate all things like life science, biology, or life science, earth science, and physics, and Discovery is a guaranteed viable curriculum that provides teachers with a better means and structure to integrate these genres. It is also on the CDE's list of approved science curriculum. The curriculum also supports teachers in providing instruction and materials that all students, regardless of language proficiency and or learning differences, are able to access. Some examples of that are it provides leveled instruction to meet the various students' needs, including it can read aloud text to students at home or at school. It can also change the lexile, and it can also provide the instruction in Spanish. It also provides structure and materials for labs and generally more interactive learning, which is helping us guide students towards STEM and other science curriculum in the high school level. And it also meets the current needs of the newcomers and other English learners here in the district, as well as it sort of helps us, Discovery also helps to prepare NUSD for the future by providing curriculum for potential dual immersion instruction at the middle school level. as well.
So some reasons why we chose Discovery Education, some of which have already kind of been touched on, but the effective scope and sequence kind of allows teachers to have flexibility of like when they can teach some of the specific units. It doesn't have to be taught in the order that it's presented. So we kind of have a little bit of flexibility on when we can kind of teach those units. Tangible materials and digital access, that's kind of really important. So like kids can have access to it both at home on their Chromebook as well as the workbooks that come with the curriculum that we're asking for. Met criteria for a differentiation for our English learners as well as all of our students with learning differences. So as a science teacher at my school site, we get all the kids. So it's really helpful that we have curriculum that literally can meet our students wherever they are. This includes formative and summative assessments, which are embedded within all of the activities and within the units, and then also common assessments. So if we are giving the same assessment over at San Jose, they're getting the same assessment at the other two schools as well. So if a kid transfers, halfway through the year, we should relatively be at the same space regardless of which school they're coming from. Meets our professional learning community district goals and objectives, provides alignment and common academic language. So again, what we're teaching at our school site, they're getting the same language, they're getting the same standards across the whole board. It also aligns with our elementary curriculum. They're doing mystery science, so it's not going to be as much of a leap for our fifth graders who are coming in as sixth graders. It's there's like that nice bridge for them. And then we also get 5 days of professional development, which can either be in person or virtual, which could really lend itself on those Wednesdays where we meet as like a whole science team, where we can meet in person, and then if we have questions, we can kind of tackle that together or virtually.
So how did we get to Discovery Science? How did we decide on that? So right here is kind of a timeline of what happened between 2013 and now. 2013 is when NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, were adopted. And it's going to take the textbook companies a little while to catch up. So we were kind of going without curriculum till now. So between maybe 2018 and 2024, we were supplementing our curriculum with resources from other areas such as Brain Pop, Scale, which is like project-based learning from Stanford. And we found out that they're supplements. They're not meant to replace a textbook. It's not a way to align our school site with Sinaloa or Hamilton. So when textbooks started coming out around maybe 2019, our department chairs went to a textbook fair at MCOE, got a bunch of textbooks, including Discovery. And then also in 2019, we started a pilot of the Green Ninja curriculum, which we found fairly quickly did not meet our needs as a district. And then 2020, everything stopped. That was it. There was no talk of textbooks for basically until we got our bearings after that. And this past school year, when we as teachers are asked to gather together and figure out how are we going to adjust our teaching to the learning targets, how are we going to use common academic language, how are we going to do common assessment. Like one of my colleagues said, we have different levels of expertise. We're pulling resources from different sources. My specialty is biology. Whitney's specialty is geoscience. It's kids are getting educated, but we have our strengths and weaknesses, and they're not getting the same material. So in our department time, we decided, okay, this is our next step. We need to get curriculum before we're able to meet the district expectations and goals. So we looked up resources. We got our textbooks from the textbook fair that we still had. We divided and conquered. We researched, and we met with reps. We researched the pros and cons, and we came upon Discovery. And we had a little bit of time in the spring to try it out. We got sample curriculum from them. We tried out some of the lessons, and we came to the decision, like at the very, very, very end of the year, that we would love to move forward with Discovery. And Hamilton, San Jose Middle, Sinaloa, we are all on board with that. And we're all in agreement that this would be the next logical step in making sure that we're able to raise those test scores and make sure our kids are well prepared for high school.
I'm Whitney McHarris. I'm a 7th grade science teacher at Sinaloa Middle School. And as you've already heard from Chase and Gabby and Mallory, we tested out the curriculum among the 6th grade science classrooms at all 3 middle schools to see what we liked, see what we didn't, because as you saw, this wasn't our first rodeo. We know what we wanted. We knew what our students needed to learn, so we wanted something that could fill in the gaps, because it's those students that are falling through the gaps, our English language learners, our not strong readers, our students who have difficulty with math or reading a graph. Those are students that need extra support and who need their Lexile readings changed or altered, either to be higher or lower, because some of our students also need more rigor and challenge to meet the expectations of the STEM program. We felt Discovery really fit that, what we needed to be flexible. We've all designed our own curriculum that we've tried to make as similar among all the different school sites as possible, where our passions are, as well as where our different student population passions are. And not only was Discovery very adaptable, we could jump around in the scope and sequence. We didn't have to stay linear with it. We could pull from different units and kind of give students extra practice if they were struggling, or if a student maybe needed extra challenge. We could say, hey, why don't you check this out? We're not going to cover it in this unit, but I think this would be really interesting for you. So we could be flexible with the lesson sequence. We could be flexible with the adaptations for Lexile scores. And it also provided embedded videos that we didn't have to scour YouTube for to make sure not only that they were appropriate, but they were giving science-based data and accurate facts. So this is all, everyone knows Discovery, right? We know that they have a lot of scientific rigor behind what they produce, and this curriculum also matches that. We also, again, as Gabby mentioned, really liked how we could use the same vocabulary across all 3 sites, because when I teach geology, I think uniformitarianism is really important, but maybe Gabby thinks talking about the sedimentary process is much more important. So it allows us to be consistent. It allows us to be in line with the district's goals of reaching proficiency among all our students by giving more activities, more differentiation, and just the things that we need as teachers, so that we're not individually having to create 4 different types of curriculum for our 4 to 5 different types of students we have in the classroom. So that was the feedback that we got from the teachers that tested it out. And I think someone's going to tell you about students and families.
So some of the things that students really liked about our curriculum, like we said, we got to pilot it with some of our 6th graders. I teach 6th grade, so this was some of the things that I got to witness from my 6th graders, and some of the things that they told me. They liked the hands-on experiences, the labs, some of the online portion has like digital like manipulatives, it's interactive. The curriculum allows for students to kind of make connections to not only like what they're doing in the classroom, but like how can they make that connection outside of school. And having materials not only in Spanish, but it can be translated in multiple languages, because we know that we get kids from not just Spanish-speaking countries. And like again, like it was kind of already mentioned, we can adjust the Lexile level depending on where our students are at. And then, you know, just having a concrete curriculum that students can access at home is huge for us. And also parents have access to it as well. We get asked every year back to school night, is there a textbook that goes along with what you're teaching? And we don't have an answer for them, because all the resources that we're using are made by all of us. So we don't have a textbook that we can give to parents that says, if you want to follow along, this is where we'll be at throughout the year. We haven't had that in a really long time, and this gives that to families at home. It also allows for students who are on independent study. They can take the workbook with them, or if they happen to have internet access at home, they can access what we're doing at home, which is also going to be less prep work for us as teachers for them, for kids who are gone for 1, 2, 3, sometimes a month. We can kind of gauge where we'll be at, so they don't fall too far behind. And then wanting students to just be prepared, successful in high school. Again, that's kind of already been mentioned, but that curriculum kind of allows for us to kind of bump up the rigor where it's needed and adjust lower where it's also needed. Students liked all the engaging videos that were embedded in the lessons. Again, those videos are also translated, can be translated in whatever their native language is. And I think that's it. Does anybody else have anything that we want to add? Do we have one more? No, that's it. I will take my baby back, who's done so well this whole time.
She did great. I just want to say thank you to these teachers who engaged in such a collaborative process in identifying a curriculum that they wanted to move forward with adoption, and also for all the work since the NGSS standards came out years ago. Just the way that you have been true professionals and really become experts and enhanced your pedagogy in ways that are unique, and you've just learned a lot and you've collaborated so well together, and it's really impressive. And you're clearly very caring educators, and so I really have appreciated learning from you about Discovery and your excitement around it. So thank you.
Questions, comments from the board? Trustee Millerick and then Trustee Butler.
Well, first, congratulations on getting the 3 middle schools to find enough time to sit down and collaborate. I know that's not as easy as it looks, so thank you for that. Second, I vote for sedimentation. Just to be clear where I am. There's a couple of things that I'm curious about. Going through COVID, the superintendent and I have had great conversations about the number of students who didn't learn much at all through the COVID exercise because being remote did not include a constant presence of an instructor and the personal part of education. But here we are talking about an online curriculum as well as, I assume, in class. What's your thinking about how that's going to work and in terms of making sure students grab? That's the first question. And the second question is ChatGPT and artificial intelligence are becoming part of every course, from kindergarten to graduate course to writing proposals to grants for school districts. AI is becoming part of the way we do. Have you thought about how you're going to incorporate those new tools going forward? And the director of curriculum instruction sitting in front of you might get her to prompt you for, maybe she knows the answer. I don't. So those are the two questions.
I'll let Gabby speak a little bit to how she sees Discover being implemented in the classroom. We have had a lot of conversations recently around the use of AI and incorporating that in the learning and how to teach students to use it responsibly. We've been looking at other district policies and guidelines that will, it seems to be ever changing at this point, that will be adjusted and change over probably year by year because technology is so quickly morphing. But we've had a lot of conversations around that. And I know that it's going to continue to be at the forefront of our conversations, and Dr. Sinyard might have more to say about that. But I can tell you from speaking with these educators and working with them over the last week that they're so excited about the hands-on activities for science in the classroom that Discovery offers. And to me, as someone who wants to support them and also see awesome outcomes, learning outcomes within our students, that really made me really excited about the curriculum. And I think that's the thing that I'm personally most excited about, because that's what we all remember, I think, from science class. Like, our favorite things were the hands-on learning moments. And this really allows them to do that in a way that's feasible and will allow them, I think, to bring hands-on activities more into the classroom more often with more frequency. But they were really excited about the hands-on aspect. And they were very sure that they wanted something that was digital for access at home, but also allowed them the students to handwrite. So, I don't know what else.
Yeah, just to add, the purchase would come with consumable workbooks. So the students would not be like answering their questions by typing it. We would love them. As much as we love the integration of technology, we would like their faces to be out of screens as much as possible. So it would come with workbooks, and with digital access, we as the teachers can print any readings, we can print any like activities, and we found that a lot of the written work that they have to turn in is based on evidence that they collect. So, for example, one of the lessons that was piloted in the 6th grade classroom was they were watching a video of a roller coaster and collecting heart rate data. That's kind of hard to fudge because, like, it's information that they're collecting themselves. Their heart rate. Correct. Yeah. So, since it allows for a little bit more hands-on, both with like the writing and the more integration of like those little hands-on things, like we are hoping that like it'll make it more meaningful for them, and also like they'll be motivated to not make up heart rate data, which it might be a little obvious if they do.
And just to sort of go back to the question that you asked, the curriculum is, while it is online and it's something that we can use online, it's not like we're just putting a screen in front of the students and like that's what they're going to be looking at. It's basically it's a foundation for us as teachers to be able to use. It provides us lesson plans to be able to use and the information that we need to use to teach the lesson. And it's not always going to be in front of a computer. Hopefully, most of the time, it's not going to be in front of a computer. But it's basically just it's staff support. It's supporting us as teachers to be able to provide them with a better curriculum and a better education.
Thank you for all the work that you put into this too. And it's a long process, but it's necessary to get to what really is needed for NUSD. And we've rejected the elementary ones. When we went to Mystery Science, we rejected curriculum before. You rejected the curriculum prior to this one, choosing Discovery. So, and I think that's okay because we need to find the right one that fits for us and fits for you for teaching. So thank you for all the work that you did. My question is about the piloting. Did it get piloted at every middle school? And for how long did that pilot session happen?
Right? Well, we spent, I think, most of the school year kind of looking at curriculum, and we only got about one Wednesday a month where all of the science teachers from all the middle schools could actually get together and meet. So half of those sessions was spent weeding through a lot of the other curriculum and contacting. So by the time that we actually settled on Discovery, it was in the springtime, I think. So we didn't have a ton of time. I know for me personally, I piloted some of it before I went on maternity leave, which I went at the end of April. So I spent about 3 weeks at least. So I piloted a handful of the lessons for 6th grade before I left, in case any other curriculum questions came up while I was gone. I at least could give some feedback on this is what I did in case this happened while I was still on maternity leave. So I know I piloted some of the life science lessons before I left. So all the feedback that I shared was from my 6th graders and like what I saw from them.
So did it get piloted?
It was not piloted. It was
That's unfortunate. Yeah, I think that's not our norm. Normally, we do go across school sites and pilot the curriculum. So that's unfortunate, and I understand the circumstances. Did this get vetted with school site councils at all? Do you know, Dr. Smith? Would this go to the school site just to share with parents and on that committee, the school site council committee? Does the principal bring that and say, oh, we're looking at new curriculum at all?
Yeah, I don't know
you don't
those
know.
details.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any of the principals here.
Yeah, no.
So
I'm just sorry. Okay, thank you. Super excited about this.
Trustee Mack and then Trustee Gasson and Lametta.
Okay, I'll try to be quick because they're stacking up here. So some nuts and bolts questions, and maybe, I'm not sure, might be more district office questions. I'm looking at the proposal, 470 units, 6 years. So basically, 470 books, last for 6 years, kind of the usual type of curriculum thing. The consumables, I see 470. Are we going to kind of repeat those every year kind of thing? Okay. And so we'll just see that in future budgets. Okay, I don't need to get into the details. I just want to understand it. And then process. I'll double down. I love this process. I would ask this, though. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing this. Because of all the topics, of all the subjects we've got, you guys are in the subject that changes every single month and have the most need to continually update. So I would ask, if possible, if you can continue this process to, now that you have this in, question it. Don't just sit on it for 6 years. Say, what can we do to make it better? AI, here comes AI. What are we going to do to add to it? Supplement it. So, because I really want to see, and I think this is a big start to change that 30% to 40, 50, 60. That's huge, and I think that's going to happen. But I think we need to challenge ourselves even more. And unfortunately for you guys, you're on the tip of the spear because this is where all the change is. As you know, science is changing so rapidly. So I would just ask district office staff and you guys, don't rest on your laurels. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that was one of the things that impressed me about this group is that they've been doing that for a long time, and to me it was part of their language and the way that they work, and I was so impressed in the way they collaborate together and everything that they've learned through creating NGSS curriculum themselves. And so we want to keep going, and this is the area that changes. And then I just wanted to address our vision for curriculum adoption in the future. We've had a lot of conversations recently about future adoptions will be district-wide and have a very, particular process and involve all of our educational partners in the way that it should. And so we are aware of that being an ideal process.
So I actually think that's an interesting point, though, too. It kind of cuts both ways, because one of the things that I appreciated about the work that you did is that you did do it all together, so it's consistency across our school district. At the same time, there is that recognition that some of our schools are in different places. But as I wrote what I liked and appreciated that you had consideration for, consistency was right up there, and along with the alignment for the elementary schools. I think that's important too, closing that or creating a connection between what they're learning in elementary and middle. So I appreciated that. And then also the dual language component. So those were 3 home runs for me from what you outlined about this curriculum. One of the, Trustee Mack touched on it a little bit, but I think in a different way. My one question was going to be other curriculum that has been presented to us. The digital component has actually been such a benefit because as things change, that gets updated as well. And so I would expect or hope that that's part of that on the digital, because I think that makes it more exciting and more relevant, and keeps that opportunity open to learn or to change or tweak or whatever. So I like that it's both. I'm a paper person. We were just joking. I do paper calendars still. So there are those kids who prefer paper or reading stuff versus stuff on digital. So I think that's great too. So anyway, I'm good with this. I appreciate all the work that went into it. And I think there's other questions.
Just a few comments. When I was reading the terms and conditions, I really appreciated the fact that equity kept on coming up and how the materials could be translated in Spanish and other languages. So I feel this will benefit our newcomers, our Latinx communities, and to connect things, hopefully make our STEM program a little bit more diverse. Something that I'm very passionate about. And then, two, thank you so much for all your hard work. I could tell, that y'all got together, and that's usually the challenging part, but thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you for being mindful of screen time and trying to sort of take education out of a computer for a minute for our kids. It's really, really important. Thank you. Okay, this is an item we need to approve. Would anyone like to move to approve? Trustee Pickus, a first, and a second by Trustee Lametta. All in favor? 7 unopposed, wonderful. Our next item is 12B, approval of amendment number 2 and amendment number A/FY 23-16 to the Transportation Authority of Marin to provide crossing guard services to Novato Unified School District for the 24-25 school year.
Yeah, so this is a continuation of something that we brought last year, which was the original amendment that basically Transportation Authority of Marin, or TAM, provides crossing guards throughout the county. And they have every year pulled back a couple of those. We wanted to keep our crossing guards at the locations that we had them at, and so we offered to pay for 2 more to be added. That's what this amendment is for, is basically just saying, and we want to do that for another year. So we would like approval of the amendment to basically continue with what we're already doing.
Questions or comments? Trustee Pickus?
Just a comment of full support for continuing to pay for those crossing guards. It's so important, so I love that NUSD has taken it upon themselves to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely.
Would anyone like to move to approve this item? Trustee Pickus, thank you. And I saw a second from Trustee Lametta. All those in favor? 7 unopposed, wonderful.
Thank you.
And our next item is 12C, review and approve board policy updates in the 600 instructional series, first reading, board policy 6,000, did I say 6,000 or 600? It's, okay, good, thank you. Concept and roles.
Thank you. Thank you all for going through all of these board policies. I know we gave you a ton this past meeting, so thank you. One more. Tonight, I'm bringing board policy 6,000 concepts and roles for a first reading. This policy is designed to support districts in delivering an equitable learning experience for all students. The policy outlines a collaborative process for supporting student success through coordination, collaboration, and alignment among district schools, parents and guardians, and the community to develop programs and practices that promote student engagement, growth, achievement, and career exploration. This policy details what the governing board and the superintendent will do to support the district's educational program and the processes for review and evaluation to engage the continuous improvement process. So first reading tonight, and then more to come.
Trustee Millerick.
I'll move a first reading and move it to consent for the second reading.
Thank you. Second. Trustee Butler. Any other conversation? All those in favor? 7 unopposed. Thank you. That is the entirety of our agenda. We will see you again. We have a special meeting on the 10th, and our next regular meeting is August 20th. Thank you.
The Saturday meeting's physically in this building.
Yes.
Correct. I don't want to miss out. Josh, you got a minute?